What's up, everybody? Expert guide for playing Cheryl Williams in Evil Dead, the game. Hey, by the way, the reason there hasn't been as many consistent uploads because I've been very, very sick. As you can probably still tell from my voice, and also if you hear me periodically go a little silent throughout this video, it's probably because I'm muting my microphone to cough my brains out. Anyway, let's jump right in. I also want you all to know that these builds, as always, are built for solo queue. So if you're somebody out there who's like, oh man, well, you know, I run this build because me and my squad, hey, good for you, man. You and your squad can run whatever you want because it's a totally different game when you're running stuff with a squad. That's cool. This is based around solo queue, and I'll explain everything in depth, why I play the way I do and why I pick the perks that I do and why some of the perks I don't pick. All right, let's go over the abilities first. First one up is Healing Touch. You activate this ability to create a healing zone for you and your teammates. It is 60 healing per second, 6-second duration. Cooldown is 120 seconds. This ability got hit by the Nerf hammer really hard. Super hard. So the main way that you want to use this ability is to just top off your team. Like, you're using this ability essentially to heal your teammates in situations where using a Shemps would be wasteful. So if there's a situation where everyone on your team is at like 80% health, that's when you drop Healing Touch. So you can top everybody off, because if you burn a Shemps there, a Shemps is going to overheal. Like, there's going to be a bunch of healing wasted there. So Healing Touch is a really good ability for that, just topping people off. It's great to have it as a thing to throw down when you complete the blue objectives, because you know that everybody's going to all be in one spot to loot the chest. So that's a great opportunity to use it. You could always use it as an emergency heal if you're just out of Shemps. At that point, you're probably going to lose anyway, but it is an option. But typically, you do want to use it to top people off in situations where using a normal Shemps would be wasteful. Her second ability is Cola Coaster. Carry more Shemps Cola and start the match with an extra one in your inventory. Carrying more Shemps Cola is a big deal. She can carry 2 more than every other support for a total of 8. That's a bigger deal than you would think. Being able to carry 2 extra Shemps is very, very clutch, and especially with how good Shemps are on her because of one of her other abilities. And starting with an extra one is nice as well, because it essentially allows you to free up having to put an extra point to this. You could fill that out, but I'll get into that in a second why I don't. I used to. I don't anymore because of the way the meta has shifted. Contact Courage, drinking a Shemps Cola partially reduces your fear and the fear of nearby teammates. Also really good. I would never use this ability, though, as I said in my original Cheryl video, just to reduce someone's fear. If everybody's at full health and somebody's about to get possessed, I would not recommend burning a Shemps just to prevent it. Don't do that. I don't think it's a good use of a Shemps. I think Shemps are just too valuable to use it on something like that. But it is a nice little thing to have as just a little bonus for every time you do use a Shemps. So there's not much more to say. Contact healing. When you drink a Shemps Cola, nearby teammates gain an increased amount of health. It's a flat 100 health heal bonus. So that's only to your teammates, not to Cheryl herself. So just keep that in mind. All right, perks. Shemps Plus. This is something we got to talk about because it's really interesting. I can't believe we haven't figured this out yet this late into the game's life cycle. We still really have no idea whether or not Shemps Plus does anything to the amount that you heal your teammates. I have seen Swing Point say that it is a flat 450 heal. I have seen, and Shemps Plus does not apply to that. I have seen people say that it is a flat 360 HP heal. I have seen people say that it is actually a percentage of what you heal yourself, and thus Shemps Plus does increase how much you heal your teammates. I have seen, I should say that also means that upgrading your health, both with Industrial Strike, the perk, and in game with the health upgrade, pick health upgrades, also increase how much you heal. I don't know what's true and I don't know what isn't anymore. And the really bad part about this is that it is extremely difficult to test. Because unlike, let's say, shield numbers, we at least have a baseline that we could work with. Because if you go into the Pig F upgrades, it'll tell you when you upgrade shields on, or well, just when you upgrade shields, it'll tell you like, oh, using an amulet goes from 150 HP to like 172.5 or whatever it is. So it tells you at base, when you use an amulet, it gives you 150 shield. We don't have anything like that for health. It's really difficult to test because there's no set numbers like that. So you just have to do like pixel measuring, and then there's some like differentiation. That's not even a word, but you get what I mean. Between how much you heal yourself versus how much you heal others. I've heard people say that how much you heal yourself for is a percentage, but how much you heal others is a flat rate, and vice versa. How much you heal yourself for is a flat rate. How much you heal others for is a flat. Who knows at this point? And I've seen a million people at this point come out and say, it works like this, and then they're dead wrong. And then they get proven wrong later. So you can't take anyone's word for anything in this game. So I have no idea if Shebs Plus increases how much you heal your teammates. So I am taking this perk entirely based off the idea that it just increases how much you heal yourself. Based on that, I see nothing wrong with doing this if you want to, and just taking that extra damage reduction instead of the Shebs Plus. If you are someone that believes this does impact how much you heal others, go ahead and put it in there. If you don't think it does, go ahead and put it in tougher than hell. I'm putting it in here just because based off like the math of whether it's a 360 flat heal or 450 flat heal, it increases how much you heal yourself by pretty significantly. And on Cheryl specifically, she's probably the one character you really want to take this on, because she can carry more shemps. So she's going to be using more shemps throughout the match and getting more value out of this perk. So that's why I'm putting points into it. 1 point to Artful Dodger, because if you watch my stamina video, this gives you 1 extra dodge when you have your Pig F upgraded, for stamina upgraded fully in game. So put 1 point into that. I come over here and I put 3 points into Seeing Stars. Now, normally, I would not put 3 points into this, but this is a meta call right here. This is something that is developed very rapidly with the way demons play now. And it sucks that you have to take this, but you do, because what is becoming really prominent now that demons early game has been taken away and they're not as effective in the early game, now the new meta strategy among demons is to spec really hard into bosses and elites and attack the book. So what we're really seeing now are demons who like spawn a unit inside the Dark Ones and they're just attacking the book right away. And at that point, they're not, no one's like the demon player when they possess a unit isn't even focusing on attacking players anymore. So you are free to break away from your usual stay back and play ranged gameplay and get in there and start swinging heavies, break the balance bar and stun units so they can't deal as much damage to the book. This is very important because I lost a match just earlier today while I was trying to get a little footage where we smoked the demon for most of the match and then we got right to the end and they wound up beating us because we just didn't have enough balance bar damage to stun their units attacking the book. And an extra, I guess, 15% could make all the difference. So that's why I'm taking 3 out of 3 for balance bar. I do want to add one thing, though. I saw someone on a certain social media platform, somebody mentioned one of my builds, and they were like, no, you don't want to go into range. You want to go all balance bar. You need balance bar so you can F-chain. F-chaining is bad with a support under normal circumstances. And also, if you only have 1 point into this, if you have a sledgehammer or even like a mace, 1 hit on a basic unit is going to make that non-finisher F, whatever you want to call it, pop up. And that's good enough, because then you can press that and get those iframes. And you typically don't want to do that most of the time, because what can happen is you'll go and do that, and then all of a sudden you're looking down at your teammates' health bars and somebody's really low, and you need to get a heal off now to save their life, to stop them from getting down, but you're stuck in a finisher animation. That can and has lost me games. So don't do that. The only time you want to finisher spam, the only time you want to F-chain is if you're like one of the last ones alive on the point. And you're just trying to capture the point and get that free res. That's the only time you should really be doing it. And in that case, you don't really, need the extra 2 points. The only reason I have the extra 2 points in here is because of the strategy now from demons of attacking the book. If that ever gets nerfed in any way, if the devs decide to give the book more health or something like that, I'm doing this right away. And I have no issue with doing that as soon as that happens. But for now, I'm doing this because it's a problem right now, attacking the book. I max out Wig Splitter and Hollow Points, and the reason for that is I want to get enough range damage to where I can one-shot basics. That's why I'm investing so many points into this, because the way that I really like to play Cheryl is to find a revolver, sit on the outskirts, a revolver or a hunting rifle or a blunderbuss. We'll get more into that later in the range section. But like on the dagger pages, I like to sit on the outskirts of combat and help pick off basic units. And then that way it's harder for a possessed unit to focus me. And if a possessed unit does come after me and tries to hit me, I just dodge towards them, get behind them, and then hopefully my warriors, the rest of my teammates, come in for backup and get between me and the possessed unit that was trying to attack me. So in doing this, you are essentially helping mitigate how much damage that you and your teammates are going to be taking. Because if you're not in the middle of the scrum where the warriors or the leaders are playing, then you're going to be taking less damage, because you don't have to worry about it being in the middle of melee combat and then having some AI unit come up behind you and stab you in the back. This helps you lessen how much damage you take. And then because you're playing ranged on the outskirts, you can see a basic unit running in, and if your aim is good, you could go ahead and headshot them. And I think my aim's pretty good. I usually could do this. I don't think I'm, a CSGO pro or anything, but I could typically land headshots on a moving target to prevent them from hitting one of my teammates in the back. And in a way, that's kind of like healing your teammate, because you're preventing them from taking damage. So I think it's a really cool way to play support. And then obviously 1 point tougher than hell. 3% damage reduction really doesn't mean much, but you're putting it in there anyway just to get to hollow points. I have said many times, I think these are probably maybe the only 2 perks of the entire game on the survivor side that you must take. I think anyone who doesn't max out deep pockets for amulets or Shep's Cola is a complete jabroni. I don't know how else to put it. I think you absolutely need to max both of these. Being able to carry more of both of these is just really, really good. It's ridiculous. It's so good that I honestly would prefer that these two perks be changed to something else, because I think that these become must takes, and then it kind of ruins your build variety, because it's like, I have to take these on every support because it's that good. But there are some people out there who disagree. Normally I'm like, hey, you're entitled to your own opinion. I typically think you're a complete jabroni if you don't max these out. 1 point in the long life batteries just to get to the deep pocket amulets. 1 point into first aid to get over here to deep pocket Shep's Cola. Like I just talked about, this doesn't matter as much first aid, but hey, 15% heal whenever you pick somebody up is all right. Packing pop here. 1 extra Shep's Cola. Now, I used to put 2 points into this, and the reason for that was because basic unit possession rush in the early game was the meta at the time. And so I thought that you needed to start with as many Sheps as you could, because the early game is where you're going to win or lose the match. And you need to have extra Sheps to keep your team alive in the early game until you can loot, until you can get enough stuff to defend yourself. Now that has been nerfed to where we don't really have to worry about basic units in the early game anymore. You'll at least have enough time to loot to get yourself a few Sheps. So I don't think it's much of a priority to take 2 points into this anymore. And then, of course, for maxing out industrial strength. In case somebody still doesn't know, industrial strength is no longer bugged. It used to be bugged to where if you maxed it out, it would then reset your health to the base value. Now you're free to max it out, and it will max out your health by 25% properly, the way it's supposed to. All right, let's talk about the perks I didn't take and why I didn't take them. First up is stopping power. Increases balance bar damage from your ranged weapons. Truth be told, I don't know. I probably still wouldn't take this just because balance bar damage on ranged weapons is not great, I don't think, compared to melee weapons. But also the main reason we're not even considering this is because we would have to ignore Wig Splitter, or we would need to waste more points to also include Wig Splitter. So we're just ignoring everything that's down here. The last word and devastating force here for increasing melee damage on the last of your combo and increasing overall weapon melee damage. I don't think you'd ever really want to take that on a support regardless of what the meta is, because right now all that really matters is balance bar damage. As far as melee combat is concerned, ranged really cares about damage. Melee combat really cares about balance bar damage. So you wouldn't really need to take this. You barely do any damage as a support anyway. So measly 15% increase isn't going to mean much versus a 30% increase for a 6-point investment on range, where it's a 15% increase for a 4-point investment. It's not as good of an investment no matter how you slice it. So I wouldn't recommend doing this. For that reason, I also would not recommend doing it, because I don't think playing melee combat on either of the other two supports besides support Ash is a good idea, because I don't think you want to be in the middle, in the thick of combat and putting yourself in a potentially compromised position where you could get hit and locked to do a combo and knocked down. Fear no evil, I don't put any points into this because typically as a support, you are the lowest priority to get possessed. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think that most of the time, if you get possessed as a support, it's kind of a win for you as a survivor, because most of the time the demon would prefer to possess the hunter, especially the hunter or the warrior. You're the last priority. I'd say it goes hunter, warrior, leader, support. It might even go hunter, leader, warrior, support, because I think range damage is king for when you possess a survivor. So you either, no matter what the order is, you are definitely the last priority for the demon. So I don't think you really need to reduce fear. Cheryl especially probably doesn't need to reduce fear as much, kind of like support Ash. They both have abilities. Well, I guess she only reduces, it does reduce your fear. There you go. So she has a way to mitigate her fear a little bit. Support Ash really does too, but even if they didn't, I don't think you really need to invest points into this because supports are not a really high priority to get possessed. Arcane knowledge. I don't think that this makes a huge difference on any character, but if you were to take it on any character, it would be on Pablo, not on Cheryl. Cheryl should never be in a position where she's going off on her own to get objectives. The only one who should ever be considering doing that is Pablo. So I would definitely not put any points into this. Fast forward reduces the duration timer for objective events. Never put points into this into solo queue because obviously it's too far down the tree to even pick up. You got to put points into stuff that's just basically useless to you just to get to it. There might be something to be said to put points into this if you were running a triple leader comp. But again, this is solo queue, so we're not really worrying about that. You could max that out if you had 3 leaders and they also maxed out their fast forwards. You stacked it all to make the blue objectives fly by. But we're not doing that, so we're not worried about that, and we're not putting points into it. Reinforced amulet. Incoming damage is reduced when you have a shield active. I wouldn't say it's terrible to put points into this. If somebody said that they put 3 points into reinforced amulet, I wouldn't be upset about it. If you are somebody who thinks I'm a jabroni for going ranged, I could see you doing something like kind of like this and going all in on damage reduction. I could see you doing something like this for sure. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't have anything against that. Reinforced amulet is really good on a support because obviously they're going to have lots of amulets because that's the support's role, is to carry all the healing items. Even still, I would not put points into improved amulet because I'm really not going to go into excruciating detail again, but basically the math that I've done on this in my how do shields work video has revealed that this is essentially useless. It doesn't make nearly enough difference. The only person that it even makes a dent on would be Henry the Red because of his abilities that give him an extra shield bar length. It's virtually useless on every other character because it provides something like 60 extra health and shields. It's useless. So don't put points into that under any circumstances. Let's go over the revive perks. I do not like the revive perks at all. The reason for that is that there is nothing in the game that assists you with reviving a teammate. The only person who even has an ability that helps you do that is Henry the Red, and obviously he ain't a support, so he doesn't have access to anything like this, none of these perks. There's nothing to guarantee that you're going to be the one who gets the res, and there are oftentimes going to be scenarios where it's not a good idea for you to be the one who gets the res. So like there could be a situation where your leader goes down and now the support is running after you and you have to start dodging them a little bit while your warrior is picking up your leader. So the possessed unit is ignoring the res, is not protecting it. At that point, is it a smart idea for your warrior to try to abandon the res, come over, try to take the possessed unit's attention, and then you go get the res? I think it's not a good idea because that could go horribly wrong. Now it might let the possessed unit know, hey, oh, wait a minute, they're about to get the res off. Let me go guard the body. So there's lots of scenarios like that where it's not even a good idea for you to go get that res. And I also just don't think that, number one, that these make a big enough difference to justify taking them. Like, what, you recover 20% of your own health, like 35% of their health. To get a lot of value out of these, your team would have to constantly be going down. And if your team is constantly going down, you're probably going to lose the match anyway, number one. Number two, if you invest the points that you invested in these revive perks elsewhere into like deep pockets or stuff that helps you survive or packing pop, then maybe you could have prevented your team from going down in the first place. And then you're going to have matches where you beat the demon without having anyone go down. At that point, you got zero value out of any of these perks. And I hate taking perks where there is a potential for you to get absolutely zero value out of it. You are going to get value guaranteed out of everything else you're taking here. Like, you're always going to be using your flashlight every game. You're always going to be using ships and amulets. You're always going to be, getting hit and needing health. You're always going to be shooting things. You're always going to be meleeing. You're always going to need to dodge. You're not always going to need to revive somebody. So that's why I do not agree with ever taking these. The only support character that you could maybe consider it on is Pablo. And the reason for that is because he's hard to track. So there's a possibility that if you're a really shifty Pablo player, you could, make the demon lose sight of you and then go for the res, but that's only really going to work on a demon who's an idiot and doesn't guard a downed body like they should. So even then, I wouldn't take it on Pablo, but it's a moot point anyway, because we ain't talking about Pablo. We're talking about Cheryl. That's why I wouldn't take those. Then obviously, these two matchstick perks are just awful. Getting to carry extra matchsticks is kind of whatever. I would take this. I don't think it's good, but this is especially useless. Lighting a light source takes 35% less time. That is like the worst perk in the game. I would hope that nobody ever puts a point to that. That's terrible. That is so bad that I think that should be changed to something else. Like, I don't know if the devs thought that was going to be useful or what, but it's awful. I would not take that. All right, let's talk about pick F upgrades. This one is still pretty interesting for the reasons that I explained when it comes to Shemps Plus and healing and how much you heal yourself for versus how much you heal others for. I alluded to it a little bit earlier when it came to your health and how some people think that how much you heal is based on a percentage of your maximum health, which would mean upgrading your health in game would be a priority because it would make your Shemps more effective and your healing more effective. Again, I don't know how much all that matters. My three priorities when I get into a match are shield, stamina, and ranged, and it's going to depend on how my match starts for which one I'm going to take first. If I spawn in a really heavy loot area where I find a ton of shields and I see my team is leveling up their shields, I'm definitely going to go shield first. If I spawn in an area where there's a lot of chests but not a lot of loot, like let's say Flight 666 or maybe, I don't know, I can't think of an area like that on Castle Kandar, but Flight 666, if you spawn there and you get a lot of chests, so you got a lot of pick F, but not a lot of loot, then I'll probably go stamina first, because I just want to be able to dodge, get that extra dodge, and so I can help mitigate damage. After that, ranged is going to depend entirely on what weapon I find. Typically, I'm not going to find a revolver right out the gate, but if I do, then I'm probably going to go range first just because I want that 15% reload speed reduction. The range damage is also nice just to ensure that you're able to one-shot basic units, but anytime you're able to increase your reload speed, that's great and really helpful because you're going to be reloading a lot. And if you're anything like me, you're going to have that Call of Duty reflex in you where you reflex reload, where like you shoot a couple of times to clear all the units off the field, and then you just reload to make sure you have a full clip for the next wave of enemies. So these are the three that I prioritize. After these three, I'm definitely going health next. Plus 250 max health is just really good. Even setting aside anything in regards to, how much you could heal others and how much you could heal yourself, whether or not it's percentage. Throwing all that aside, getting to heal yourself another 250 max health is really, really good. And so I would recommend taking that fourth after these three, going in an order depending on how your game starts. After that, I'm probably going to put points into melee. And the reason for that is just because I want that 5% extra attack speed. At this point in the match, we could very well be at the book now, depending on how fast the match has gone and depending on how well the demon is doing. Maybe we've just run through this game really quick, and now I'm going to need that extra attack speed just to get those heavies off a little bit quicker, break their balance bar, and stop them from breaking the book. And then my last priority is fear reduction, because like I said, I think possessing the support is like the lowest priority for a demon. So that's why I take fear dead last. All right, let's talk about ranged weapons. I talked about this a little bit, but basically, yeah, I'm always like looking for a revolver. And the reason you're looking at a weird screen right now is because this dummy wasn't prepared, didn't have his tier list up. So let me get that ready. Presentation mode, because I don't want to burn your retinas with this bright white stuff. All right. Let's get in here. Ranged weapons. As far as what you are prioritizing the most, definitely revolver. Revolver does really good damage. It's just the perfect weapon. Like handgun ammo is amazing because you can carry more. You pick up more with each box. You get 5 versus 3. Typically, you're not going to be competing with your hunters over ammo, because your hunters are 99% of the time are probably going to be taking either a long weapon or special weapon. So it's really the ideal weapon for any support, I think. I have seen some people talking about how they like picking up the revolver as a hunter. I don't know why people like that. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But regardless of why people like doing that, I have not really seen that in pubs. I haven't seen that in solo queue. Almost never does a hunter actually pick up the revolver unless they're a noob. Level 25 hunters always pick up a long weapon or a special weapon, depending on the character. After that, I'd put the hunting rifle here. The hunting rifle is really good, but you have to remember that it is a long weapon. So the hunting rifle, you are only taking this if for some reason you either can't find a revolver, in which case I'd still rather you take a blunderbuss, which I'll get into in a second. Or your teammate, your hunter, for some reason is using a revolver. Then you can take the hunting rifle because long ammo is freed up for you. But if you can't find a revolver for some reason, and your teammate is using a long weapon, your hunter is using a long weapon, then go ahead and take the blunderbuss. The blunderbuss is going to be better for you. The blunderbuss is so good that it's basically going to guarantee that you're going to be one-shotting basic units, which is really nice. It also makes it so you don't have to prioritize ranged weapon damage as much. as far as pink F upgrades go. It's also nice because obviously it takes special weapon ammo. That means that, you know, if somebody is using a long rifle, you've got special weapon ammo freed up for you. So I really like the blunderbuss as well. Geez, moving down the list. I probably want to go D tier next. The explosive crossbow, I think, is really bad on a support because your range damage is so bad that you're just going to be wasting time shooting basic units. Like, it's not going to do anything to them. All you're really doing is chewing through special ammo and not really having an impact whatsoever on combat. So I would never take the explosive crossbow on a support. I think it's really, really bad. The rest of these are kind of awkward. The pistol's not as bad on support because you don't do as much range damage. And you don't have to worry as much about getting stun locked. But it's still not great. Honestly, any one of these could be just jumbled in here. It doesn't really matter. Put them anywhere in here, dude. It doesn't matter. These are your 3 priorities, and it's 3 different ammo types. So one of these should be available to you. Always take one of these. The rest of these really don't matter. You should never take this. The only time you should be ever taking one of these is in the event that you have brought like an Ed and you're getting crazy loot this match and want a really rare weapon version of these popped out. So like your Ed already has a legendary boomstick. Your leader already has a legendary blunderbuss. And now a, you know, legendary pistol just popped out. Okay, then you can take the legendary pistol because it's like, at that point, it's going to be dealing so much damage that it's going to be crazy. But yeah, these don't really matter. You know, if you want to say like, well, you know, I use the boomstick or the double barrel because of X, Y, and Z, that's fine. Don't even really pay attention to these. The only one that really matters is explosive crossbow. Just don't pick that up. The rest of these are kind of all in the same tier. Ignore that it says B or C tier. This is B and C tier. They're all grouped together. There, you can do that. That helps illustrate my point even more. You're always picking one of these 3. The rest of these are whatever. You're never picking this up. Got it? All right, good. All right, let me make sure I'm on the right page here. There we go. Very good. All right. Melee weapons. Melee weapons. I think you know what's number 1. The almighty sledgehammer. The sledgehammer, that's what you're taking, dude. That's all there is to it. You're picking up the sledgehammer if you can find it. Sledgehammer reigns supreme. Sledgehammer is love. Sledgehammer is life. If you're a support, you're taking this as soon as you could get it. The only time you're ever not taking this is if there's another teammate who wants it and needs it more than you, like a warrior or a leader. But outside of that, you're always picking this up. A tier below that, I would put the other good balance bar weapons, like these bad boys, the bat, the mace, the shovel. I actually think that the axe and the sword like have similar balance bar to these. Maybe not the same as the shovel. I have it cut off like an idiot, but I think it's very similar and may even be better. So really, I don't know. These are all kind of in the same tier. Some of them are probably a little bit better than the others, but like you're taking the sledgehammer, dude. That's all you need to worry about. Take the sledgehammer. And then I would prioritize these because they're blunt weapons and they have good balance bar damage. Then go ahead, go after the axe and the sword. I think the axe and the sword actually have like similar or identical balance bar damage to like the nailed bat, so keep that in mind. I can't tell for sure though, because I can't look at it right now because it's cropped weird. But then after that, hey, chainsaw's a D tier. I wonder why. Yeah, you can't use it, so that's the load weapon in D tier. After that, any of these like one-handed like sharp weapons are really bad. I wouldn't recommend that. After that, I'd say in B tier are these two because they are both technically blunt weapons, and therefore they are decent for balance bar damage. So if for some weird reason you can't find any of these, like let's say it's super early game and the demon just got on top of you, these are the two you're taking until you can find one of these. The spear I'll put in B tier as well, just because of its range and its attack animations. It's really good at like keeping units away from you. So if you go to headshot something and you miss, you can poke it with the spear from a relatively far distance away and keep it away from you to help mitigate how much damage you take. So I'll put the spear in the same category as the meat hammer and the pickaxe, but Sledgehammer is the almighty god. That's why my name is Sledge, is because Sledge is number one, even in Evil Dead the game. So take the Sledge, please. I'm begging you. Any chance you get. The other weird thing too is that if you stay alive too long in the tutorial, by the way, one of the units will start attacking you. A random basic unit will run up to you and start attacking you. Kind of interesting. Said that before, but I'll say it again. All right, as far as how to play, this will demonstrate a little bit about what I mean here. Now, if you're in a scenario where, you know, the flautist is out like it is here, you're going to go around and maybe F-chain a little bit. Try to stick near your team, so if they do get into trouble, you can help them out. If you start to get focused like I did there, the evil Ash came after me. I vaulted a window and got out of there. So another thing to keep in mind. Ideally, it's not on you as a support to go get the flautist. Ideally, you're going to stick around and hang out near your team so that doesn't happen, so one of your teammates doesn't go down because you're not nearby to heal them. But if you have to take out the flautist, you do have that option because of the fact that you are running a ranged build. So you can 2-tap the flautist with a revolver, which is really nice. Otherwise, like I talked about, as far as the basics of basic concept of combat goes, on these blue objectives, you are really hanging out in the middle of the, or in the outskirts of the circle, not the middle. Also keep in mind, by the way, if you are playing against a necromancer, Evil Ash does have that ability to where when he damages somebody, he could prevent them from being able to get healed for quite a bit of time. It's like 5 seconds. So just keep that in mind and don't wind up wasting a Shemps trying to save somebody. Really bad idea, and could be crippling to you if you wind up burning a Shemps on accident and it doesn't do anything. Yeah, so this gameplay is just going to be me like clutching this point, but I just want to talk about like general gameplay when you're not down to the last person. This is what I'm talking about, by the way. This is the one time when you want to like start F-chaining, is when you're the last one on point and you need to stay alive. This is when you really want to do it. Just kind of dodge, hit, F-chain, dodge, hit, F-chain, that sort of thing. But yeah, you're hanging out on the outskirts of combat. You're shooting things in the head to stop them from damaging your teammates from behind. And then when you're always keeping an eye on the bottom left to see what teammate's health is at. And then once you see a teammate's health is low, then you're kind of dipping in, using a Shemps, and then dipping out. And like I talked about earlier, if a possessed unit comes out and focuses you, then you could go ahead and dodge towards their attack. And then hopefully your team will be coming in for backup. You're going to have enough dodges that you should be able to dodge 3 out of their 4-hit combo. The 14-hit light, heavy combo from Necro is now gone, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's really, really nice. So you're going to be able to dodge most of their combo, and hopefully your team, even in solo queue, is going to come over and help you out and body block for you. So yeah, I think it's an excellent way to not only mitigate damage, but it also makes you very helpful in combat. Under normal circumstances, you're kind of a liability in combat, and you're really just there to keep people healed. I think running this build that I just presented to you with range damage makes you very good in combat. I had a game with Cheryl where I had 110 headshots and 40k damage, and I was number 1 in damage on the team. That's the kind of game that you're trying to have as Cheryl, where you're just carrying everybody in combat. And if that's what the support could do, as long as the rest of your team is at least semi-competent, you're going to be super, super successful. So that's why I run the range build. That's why I think it's really, really good. Yeah, hang out on the outskirts, use your Q to top people off, all that stuff that I went over throughout the video. You could also use the environment to your advantage. Try to vault windows when you can. Basic and elite units can now vault windows as well as with the most recent patch. So just keep that in mind. It's not a get out of jail free card anymore. But basic units do seem to have trouble turning quite often. So a lot of times you could just like use your environment to run circles around an object, and they might have a hard time hitting you depending on how big the object is. I did a little bit of that on the last point in this very video. So there you go. This is the expert guide to Cheryl in Evil Dead the game. I think Cheryl is the best healer in the game. I love playing as her. She's fantastic. I hope this guide helps you. Let me know in the comments what you think. I apologize once again if you made it this far in the video for having to constantly mute and pause for a second because of me being sick. But that's just kind of the reality with how much I'm coughing right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. One last cough for the road. But if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you subscribe. I hope people like the video and watch it. And I will see you guys next time. And thank you for stopping by.